Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. So in this video, I'm going to be playing the new Spider-Man, and I've already finished the game, so I'm just going to be sort of swinging around the city and doing some crime stuff. But there might be some things you don't want to see if you're really sensitive to spoilery material. So you might want to just alt-tab or tab out or whatever it is, minimize, whatever. I'm not going to really say anything spoilery, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, if you have a PS4, you should get Spider-Man. If you don't have a PS4, what in the hell are you doing? What in the hell are you doing? You better be broke. You better be broke ass if you don't have a PS4. Because at this point, you got Bloodborne, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Spider-Man. You got all this shit. You got more shit coming out. It's just insane. PS4 is nuts. Sony is off the charts.
Yuri, you're back.
And then you've got
Fine. Right back to complaining about not having
you got Microsoft,
So you
Xbox One, where the most exciting thing
time for that.
to come out for Xbox One is backwards compatibility for Modern Warfare 2.
To clean up.
Sounds like a big job, but we're up to it.
For a job this tough, we need Spider Cop.
Like, can you imagine a world where this game or God of War was released exclusively for Xbox One?
Really like me.
I don't even know what an Xbox One exclusive looks like.
Got work to do.
I can't wait. Spider Cop surveys the city.
I don't know. Do I own any? Have I ever played one? I don't know.
What have I done?
I don't know. Anyways. So, yeah,
Excuse me.
Spider-Man is pretty amazing, as you might expect. You know, I'm a Spider-Man fan, I guess, but I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan, because I haven't really read any comics or anything, so I can't call myself a huge Spider-Man fan, but I like Spider-Man. And back in the day, of course, Spider-Man 2 on like the PS2 or whatever was pretty nuts. What am I taking a picture of? What do you want from me? Obscured. What does that mean? Is this? But aside from that, I sort of ignored most Spider-Man games. I think I played one other, maybe it was like Amazing Spider-Man or something like that. But they were all pretty similar, and yeah, it was okay. But then this comes out. I wasn't even really that crazy excited about it, because, you know how I get. I don't really look into games that much.
Fire safety lessons with Uncle Spidey.
But man, yeah, I plowed through this thing. I just finished it like an hour ago, and I'm close to getting all the trophies, close to platinuming it, as the kids say. It shouldn't take too much longer, probably by the end of the day. And yeah, it's pretty freaking sweet. Really, there's never been a game that made you feel more like Spider-Man, which is, of course, should be the goal of a Spider-Man game. But it's really like,
I think the motorcycle's make those escaped convicts look cool.
Like, wow, I'm a superhero. You know, that's what it's like. You feel like a superhero. And there have been games that have, plenty of games that have tried to do that. I think this is probably the best at this point. And yeah, you can compare it to the Arkham games with Batman. And that game did make you feel like Batman. But I gotta put this above any of those games. For me, at least. Just so much is done right. It's really everything I expect from just an awesome Spider-Man game.
Police vehicles under armed assault. Officers report to Spanish Harlem.
And it's not perfect. There could be improvements made.
Is it still a
And it's still, you know, it's a video game, so you're gonna have video gamey stuff going on. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Definitely top 5 of the year for me. Maybe top 3. We'll see. But yeah, just the combat is just so good. Especially when you get some of the challenges are like, you know, going into like bases and things like that, and just wiping out waves of enemies, and it's just so exhilarating. Even on normal difficulty, it's just so good. And you know, it does sort of stick to a formula that we're well associated with at this point, especially for Spider-Man games, of just, here's New York, you know, swing around New York, there's crimes going on you can stop of different kinds, there's different collectibles and challenges you can do, and you can do challenges and get a bronze medal, a silver medal, or if you're really good, a gold medal. So, you know, it doesn't really stray from a formula, but it executes that formula better than pretty much anything else. And it doesn't go nuts with the challenges, which is really nice. Like, one of the things to do is like get pigeons. You have to go around the map. This really is not a spoiler. You have to go around the map and get pigeons. And that's like, oh god, pigeons. What a nightmare. But it's not like 150 pigeons across Manhattan that are not marked on the map and you just have to find them all or some bullshit like that. No, it's 12 pigeons. They're all marked on the map. They're not that difficult to get. And you get them, you get your reward, and that's it. That's done. That's pigeons for the whole game. You're done. So it's things like that. It's just, they don't go overboard with really anything, which is good. Everything in moderation. That's why I sort of did everything. The most frustrating part was those sort of challenges where it was bronze, silver, gold. Getting the gold on all of them was a little bit annoying for some of them, because it was just like, obviously, there's, again, not really a spoiler of any kind, but there's challenges that involve like really precise, fast swinging through different parts of the city, and you have to be really good with your swinging. And so any sort of mistake where you don't go exactly where your mind wanted you to go because of the controls or whatever, it's like, okay, that's pretty annoying. But there's really not that many of those, and then you're done and it's all good. So yeah, I've been doing everything. And the suits, oh man, suits really good. Obviously, I have all the suits. If you don't care to see spoilers, you can see all the different suits. Some of them are really badass. Some of them I would never really use just because it's like, this is not Spider-Man. This is a good one. There's definitely some great ones and some pretty weird ones. This is the best one, though. I will fight anyone who says otherwise. And the really great thing is, most of the suits have like a special power associated with them that once you unlock the suit, you get the special suit power. But, really smart on their part, the special power is not linked to that suit. So, you unlock, like this one, you unlock that special power, but you can then use that special power with any suit you want. So suits, all they really are, once you unlock them, is just aesthetics, which is great. That's brilliant. Because there are some really good suit powers linked or connected to some not that great suits. So this allows you to just use whatever looks best, which is this one, and you can use whatever suit power you want. So that was definitely smart on their part. The only downside, it seems, is if, because they have so many suits and players are going to use all sorts of different suits, it seems in a lot of cinematics or something like that, they didn't want to like mess with the suit at all. They couldn't mess with the suit at all, so they couldn't show damage on the suit in almost any cinematic. Because in every cinematic, you're wearing the suit that you pick, which is cool or odd, depending on which one you're wearing. But they couldn't like rip the suit. They pretty much never like have you wearing just like the body portion of the suit without the mask. Because I guess that would look really weird. There's one cinematic where you are wearing just the mask and like boxers. So they apparently could do it. And then there's another part later in the game where you do wear just the body part and not the mask, but they switch you to the default suit. The basic suit for the game, the default suit, which I really don't like the look of, so I never used it. So, yeah. But anyways, this is still amazing. It's amazing Spider-Man. And yeah, it's just good. I guess the skill system, you know, like the perk trees and all that, the talents or whatever you want to call them, nothing really revolutionary. It's sort of like you're just sort of filling in the gaps, I guess, and it's just like nothing really excited me that much for the skills. I mean, some of them you pick up right away, like the quick recovery and the charge jump and stuff, the things that make you travel faster. But most of them are just like, okay, this helps a little bit in certain situations, but it's not like you're gaining new moves, really, or anything like that. But aside from all that stuff, it's just an amazing game.
Hey, does this turn into a robot?
You should get it. So yeah, I'm on board for any DLC, sequels. I mean, they've got this engine now, they've got the city, they could do all sorts of shit. They're definitely setting up for more games in the story. There's definitely room for interesting developments in the sequels. And really, they could just take this setup and just have like an Avengers game. You know, they could take this and put Iron Man in here, or Thor, or, you know, all sorts of different characters that they could just plop into New York and have at it. The only thing, I mean, I'd love to see a Hulk game just with this engine, but the problem is, I think to have a really incredible Hulk game, you need to have building destruction. You need to be able to destroy buildings, otherwise it's just weak. So I don't know if the world is quite advanced enough for a proper Hulk game. Maybe on PC if people really push it. If we have like a crisis situation where it's like, yeah, you probably can't run this game, but here it is. It's amazing. That's the dream. But yeah, I'm fully on board with Insomniac and whatever they want to do. I'm shocked there isn't more just amazing Marvel games, considering how much work they put into the whole MCU. They could do some really awesome things in the video game world, and this game sort of proves it. And actually, DC does better in the video game world than they are in the movie world, because we have the Arkham games, we have the Injustice games, which are pretty solid, and apparently Rocksteady is working on a Superman game, so DC's not doing terrible in the video game world. But now that this is out... So yeah, that's my recommendation. Yeah, at Friday, like, I finished working on the exploring video, and then it was just this non-stop. Saturday was like 14 hours of Spider-Man. It was pretty ridiculous, but it's great. It's great. I'm sad it's sort of over.
I hate it when they lie in wait.
Also, the photo mode is not my thing. I don't do that, but I'm really looking forward to seeing all the different photos people can come up with. It's a really nice photo mode. But I went into photo mode during like a cinematic, and I guess it was like a really, I don't know, it was like a really intense render or something like that in the cinematic. I thought my PS4 Pro was going to explode. It is absolutely the loudest I've ever heard a console get. I was worried. And I've heard it get pretty loud playing like Monster Hunter World and stuff, but this was next level.
Those rocket backpacks are pretty
So
awesome.
I don't know what's up with that. As much as these PS4 exclusives are amazing, I do wish everything was just on the PC. But that's because I have a really good PC, and I know not everybody has that, so... Anyways, moving on, now that we've talked enough about Spider-Man. 18 minutes for Jesus. Do I ever shut up? Anyways, this week on this channel, we had Doom and Final Fantasy IX. Doom is going to continue. We're going to wrap that up. Final Fantasy IX is going to go on a hiatus until Doom is done, because starting on the 12th, I'm going to be doing Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Because that's like the early access thing, which might be, is that like a new trend, I guess? Early access for deluxe pre-orders or something. So, either way, starting on the 12th, that'll be Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and so we'll be doing that and Doom until Doom is done, and then back to Final Fantasy IX, and then finish up Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And then, I don't know what's after that. We'll see. Probably, like, unless there's something else to play, which there probably is. We're getting into that time. But otherwise, we can always just go into Doom 2.
More and more brutal. I can't believe Martin Lee is really behind all this.
Yeah, so that's the plan. This week on the Exploring series, we had Dr. Wondertainment, which I knew was not going to be that big of a video compared to like SCP-001, but even for not a big video, it's at like 30,000 views, which, yeah, that's not like, holy shit, 30,000 views, but compared to Celtic mythology, we're blowing things out of the water, which is pretty great. So, this week I worked on the video for SCP-093, the Red Sea Object, and...
The neighborhood just got a little less friendly. Maybe I can dismantle this app. Are those spotlights to attract my attention? Maybe make it less ambiguous. Oh, spider logo. Nah, we get sued.
Take him down. We got a man down.
Sorry, it's just so captivating. What were they talking about? Oh yeah, the Red Sea Object. So that was basically the type of video that I was concerned about doing originally, because this is a video focusing on a single SCP. It's not a compilation or anything like that, and it is not a reading. And so my concern was, how am I actually going to summarize an SCP? And I really shouldn't have been worried, because there are some very lengthy SCPs. There are some very short ones, and that's more what I was concerned about. Like, people want a summary of, like, this 2-minute SCP, and it's like, why would I make a video on this one SCP? And I guess I just sort of blanked on how many long ones there are. The exploration ones, and the ones with numerous interviews and addendums, or addenda, I guess, whatever.
And now, it makes a lot of sense. Here's what I said. He internalized it, and he learned, improved himself, and against all odds, he did the right thing.
So the video actually turned out pretty good, I think. I was pleased with it, which is not often the case. But
Spider-Man from here on out. I'll be watching.
I think
Spider-Man, since I know you're listening.
I think if you want to read SCP-093, of course you can do that. If you want somebody to read it to you, of course you can find that. That's certainly out there. But I don't know how many good summaries there are of 093 and other SCPs, lengthy ones. So it's usually when I'm filling a niche that I do pretty well, and I think that's what I've got going on here with SCP. So, you know, I have to admit that I was definitely wrong about SCP, because I originally was against the whole concept. I thought this wouldn't work. It's not a right fit for my channel. I have no idea how I would do it. But it's working out pretty well, and people like it, so...
Spider-Man! Hey! Good to see you again.
Love me.
Stalking me, are you? I wouldn't really
Kick you. Kick you.
Hey, you okay?
He must be in combat mode, because normally he'll give him, like, the finger guns or whatever. I don't know why he's in combat mode. Anyways, so yeah. The only problem with 093 was artwork, which of course is a problem with all SCP stuff. And really, for 093, it was not a problem compared to some other SCPs that are going to happen. Because for 093, obviously I'm not going to find 20 minutes of artwork. But since the setting of 093 is largely like an abandoned, apocalyptic plains and cityscapes and stuff like that, I could just use generic abandoned pictures and artwork and stuff like that. You know, apocalyptic stuff, ruins. I used a bunch of artwork, or a bunch of photographs from the subreddit abandoned porn, which is not... It's not what you think it is, I guess. It's just abandoned areas and places and stuff. Which, I really like. Like, I've spent plenty of time browsing that stuff in the past, because there's something about abandoned locations and, like, Pripyat and you know, these different ruins and nuclear areas and things like that, ghost cities that are just hauntingly beautiful. So it really was not difficult at all to find pictures to fill up this video. But for an SCP like 354, where the exploration log involves going to like an alien planet with like all these different odd alien objects and landscapes and stuff like that, I don't know what I would use for the art. Because SCP is not nearly popular enough to have an abundance of art. And more than that, it's so fragmented that you're not going to have that much art for each individual SCP. You might have one or two. But it's not like Skyrim, where you have 30 billion pictures of Nocturnal or whatever, you know. It's just, there's just not going to be that much. So, it wasn't a problem that much for 093, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a continued problem in the future. But that's part of the job. So, yeah, I was pretty happy with that. I think next week we're working on possibly the Scarlet King. I'm not exactly sure. It might be Marshall Carter in Dark. We'll see. Yeah. So that's that. Moving on.
Progress. Backup requested. Available officers, please proceed to Bryant. Over.
Moving on to Roll Mangg. Bloomhaven. So, when we left off,
That's just rude. Yeah.
we had just left the underground, and there was a city in the distance. And let me just say that I think
Reinforcements. I guess this is what they call organized crime.
Ziggy moved a little too fast with the effects of the bloom. I think the point of the Shadow of the Demon effect is at the start of the campaign, it's very subtle. In fact, your players should not even know what the Shadow of the Demon effect is for the first couple sessions, I think. I think the idea is they get, like, maybe a clue. They get maybe, like, a little hint, like, oh, something's going on in the far distance. You know, it's not really related to anything that they're doing at the start. Like, I think a Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign should start like a normal D&D campaign. In a sense. And then, as time goes on, these clues become evidence. And it's like, oh, okay, there's definitely some real shit going on here. We need to get working on this. But with this campaign and the last campaign, it was like the first or second session. It's like, wow, this is a problem. You know it's a problem. It's going to get a hell of a lot worse real fast. I guess I'm not saying he's doing it wrong. It's just, I don't know if that's how they intended it for it to go down. But either way, here we are, and
That car crash looks bad. Hope no one's injured.
Anyways, so we got out of the...
People are still trapped. Don't panic. I'm here.
Got out of the underground, and we already see that the sort of the foresty area around this underground exit or entrance is already sort of out of control. Like the grass is already like up to our necks.
That's everyone. Glad I was
And so things are pretty nuts. So we're just like, okay, well, we got to get out of here and head towards the city. City is our salvation. We got to sell all this ore, because that was the thing, that we're hauling, you know, hundreds of pounds of this unrefined ore that we stole from the train. And that's weighing us down. And so it's a few of us and a bunch of miners, a bunch of dwarven miners that we brought with us. And Phil couldn't make this session, so we swapped him out for Mangg. I don't know how good of a trade that is, but who knows. And... what am I doing in this part of the city? I should know better.
All units, report of a break-in.
No, I'm not helping with a break-in. So we're going through the tall grass. We're trying to get out of this foresty area. And we come across a tiny little house. Like, the size of an end table, pretty much. And so we go up to this house, and out of the house steps this little tiny guy. He looks old, but he's very tiny. He's like the size of a fucking mouse or something.
But I can't just let him spray bullets around Manhattan.
And so basically I'm just like, okay, well, we're trying to get out of here. We're trying to get back to civilization. Do you have anything that could assist us? And so he gives us some, like, nuts and berries or some shit. Ow.
Well, clearly Silver Sable buys these guys in bulk.
And I do sense magic, and I don't sense any magic coming from his house, but I sense magic coming from him, so he's clearly a magical creature. And he's very nice. He's just this nice old little man, and I'm just thinking, okay, I'm just an evil fuck. Like, I am a monster. That's what character generation told me. And yes, I did make a special pact that I would not be evil to any party members, but I have to be evil otherwise. And that's not as easy for everyone as you might think. Some people really take to playing evil characters, and they can just be mass murdering fucks non-stop and just kill little children, eating babies and all sorts of stuff, and they just love it. These people play Vampire the Masquerade. But not everyone can always do evil that well. And so I'm like, I gotta be evil here. I gotta kill this dude. I really, no other character would do it, but I have to. And the rationale was that, okay, he clearly has some sort of magical presence here. He gave us something. We don't know what else is in his house. Maybe he's got other good stuff. There's really no reason I wouldn't kill this guy. So, we killed him.
Oops, sorry.
Damn it.
Love it.
And it turned out he was a magical creature of some type, because every time he took damage, he gained 1 size. Or something like that. He, like, doubled in size. Something like that. He grew bigger. And sure, if you kill him in, like, 2 hits, that's really not a big problem. But we did not. It took quite a few hits. And so he got very big. Very big. Like, he became the size of, like, a huge dragon.
Ooh, love that shot.
Please converge on Central Park.
And at first I was like, wow, this is great. We're gonna eat him and we're gonna have food for months. But when he died, he shrunk back down to normal
Try
size.
and guess how I feel about
So, it didn't quite work out. But, you know, we got to do a nice combat right off the bat. So that was good.
Live by the beatdown, die by the beatdown.
And he didn't have anything else in his house. He had, like, some sort of magical staff, but Ziggy's like, it wasn't magical enough for you to pick it up on your sense magic. And I'm like, well, it's useless then. And so I think I just, like, broke it or something. I mean, maybe it had some sort of use, but if it's not even that magical enough for me to sense it, then screw it.
One thing even my detractors have to say about I admit when I'm wrong.
So really, he didn't have anything pretty much on him at all. I think... No, he really didn't have anything. So, yeah, it was sort of a senseless murder, but... It turns out that this guy was sort of antagonizing the local dryads. And so after he died, the dryads showed up. And Gug, of course, was mesmerized by them because he failed his will check. But they were grateful, I guess, that we killed him. And so they didn't eat us, or what? They let us leave the forest, which was good. And so we did. We left the forest, although we did camp out at, like, the edge of the forest.
This looks like a job for Spider Traffic Cop.
Wow. That is literally the first time it has crashed. I played 14 hours yesterday. It did not crash once. Huh. That's interesting. Okay. Right. So, we camp out. And I set up my little robo dude, my little robot servant. He's gonna do the watch again during the night, just like usual. But this time I give him a special command that a few hours into his watch, he's going to take a knife and slit the throats of the other miners. Quietly. And so we all go to bed, and we wake up, and all the miners have had their throats slit. And I honestly tell the others that yes, I instructed him to do it, and now we have less people to share the wealth with. It made perfect sense. Less baggage. As it turns out, we actually did need miners when we get to the city, as I'll talk about later. So I probably could have left them alive, but Gug didn't plan that far ahead. He was just thinking about the temporary wealth they were carrying around. Senseless murder, pretty much. That's sort of the whole campaign. But anyways. So now we had a lot more ore to carry with less people to carry it. So we basically made a sort of a sled, or just a big bag of all their clothes, and we wrapped it up with a bunch of rope, and we all hauled the bag together across the plains.
I was wrong. I wanted to believe.
And
But even a stop clock is right twice a day. And I guess curing the plague was Spider-Man's stop clock moment.
well, that's the other thing. Like, J. Jonah Jameson is like a Rush Limbaugh, like, pissed off podcast host that just constantly shits on Spider-Man. It was a very, very brilliant decision on their part. It definitely fits.
Arresting people for
Again, it just sort of makes you feel like Spider-Man, where you're constantly just doing all this good work throughout the city. You're busting your ass nonstop, risking your life, and then every day you just get to hear J. Jonah Jameson shit all over you. It's great. No respect. Anyways, where was I? Okay, so we hauled this this bag across the plains, and we had to camp out for another night. We didn't quite make it to the city because we were slowed down carrying all this weight.
There's obviously a fight 1 get 10 free special on Sable Agents right now.
So we camp out in the middle of the plains, and before we stay in for the night, before we head to bed, we learn that there are some winged creatures tracking us up in the sky. And so I originally just, you know, I set up Robo Dude as the night watchman, just like normal, and I'm like, okay, we'll see if they do anything. Attack us around a campfire and stuff.
What's happening to this city?
But they attack sooner than that. We don't even get to go to sleep. And so a combat ensues with these harpies. And they're not easy, but there's only a few of them. And so I'm setting up the bolt thrower, and Robo Dude is punching them, and we're doing what we can. Actually, yeah, I made the decision last time to take the destruction tradition of magic. And I think the level 0 destruction spell called Ruin is probably the best level 0 combat spell in the game. Because it does guaranteed. Fuck. I'm trying to talk. I'm not this bad at the game, trust me. It does guaranteed, like, 1d6 plus 1 damage. No attack roll necessary. You just snap your fingers and they take damage. And in a world where enemies don't have huge swaths of health at the early parts of the game, guaranteed damage is really good. And yeah, you take 1 damage whenever you cast it, but still, it's very nice. Because I have the level 1 spell where you roll to hit, but they take like 3d6 plus 2 damage or whatever. But I have yet to hit anybody with it. And so it's like, okay, the level 0 spell has done a lot more damage.
I gotta shut. I'm touched by your devotion to your friends. I'll see to it you end up in the same cell block.
So anyways, we're fighting the harpies. That's going as it goes.
Spider-Man,
we're not like slaughtering them.
whatever that was, watch out.
And in the middle of the fight, 3 horsemen show up. 3 guys on horseback. Leon from Spider-Man? Now you're paralyzed for life.
Don't think of it as going back to jail.
So 3 guys on horseback show up, presumably to help us with the harpies. In fact, they start firing their crossbows at the harpies. But Gug figures, okay, well, we can kill them and take their armor and their weapons, their gold, their horses, so on and so forth. And so I start firing upon the horsemen. Because the bolt thrower acts not independently, but it looks like it acts independently. Like, I'm not, like, behind it, firing it. So they're like, oh, this bolt thrower is firing upon him. What is this? And I'm also casting spells, so those guys know that I'm doing some shit. But they're sort of disorganized. And And so it comes out closer than probably the others would have liked, but we do kill most of the harpies and most of the horsemen. One of the harpies carries off one of the horsemen, flees. So we don't have to worry about him. So okay, we got 3 horses. And we've got the equipment from,
Clearly, Silver Sable buys these guys in bulk.
from 2 horsemen. So now we can ride into town instead of walking the rest of the way, and we look pretty good. But I figured that these guys came from the city. Some scouts or something reported seeing harpies attacking people, or who knows. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to ride into town from a different entrance than the one that they most likely came out of, just in case. And so we do, and there's no problems.
Rounding of protesters. What's happening to this city?
And we get into town, and we find that the bloom is already causing some problems for the city of Stanton. Because they're having to like chop off all these, the guard tower is already sort of overrun with vines, and people in the city have to like continually wipe away plants and stuff like that. Like, it's already starting to sort of overrun the town. This is what I'm saying, where it's like things are moving a little quicker than they probably should. But that really means that the entire campaign is sort of quickly focused around the bloom, rather than having any opportunities to do like traditional side quests or whatever. Like, we're not going into like a dungeon to find some artifact or anything like that, or, you know, to wipe out some goblins. It is entirely based around the bloom, which, yeah, is the most interesting part of the campaign, and ultimately what the campaign is based around, but I don't know, it seems a little quick for my taste. But it's fine, because I do want to get to the bloom stuff as well. I think it ultimately limits the length of the campaign, but that's probably okay. We don't tend to go for long campaigns anyways.
Drug trade's gotten more aggressive post-Fisk. Gotta stomp that out. Hey, guys! You got prescriptions for this stuff? I'm losing them! Gotta catch up. I think your shocks need some work!
Anyways, we are in the city now. And I had asked Ziggy to give me a quirk, because your insanity builds up as you play Shadow of the Demon Lord, much like Call of Cthulhu. And not quite as rapidly as Call of Cthulhu, I suppose, but it builds up in a similar way. And once your insanity reaches your will score, you receive a madness effect. And most of the time this will reduce your insanity score, but sometimes not by much, and you're just inevitably going to have another madness effect. And I know for a fact one of the madness effects, the worst one, is you have a heart attack and you instantly die. And I don't want that to happen, because, you know, the goal is to have one character make it through the whole campaign. Which is...
Those guys are already breaking. Man, Fisk goes away and suddenly
you guys all ran the same way? What are you, dumbasses?
And my collection is complete.
And so to sort of alleviate your insanity, there's a couple different ways. But unless you have like a healer around that knows healing magic or life magic, really the best way is to take a quirk. Well, not the best way, but the only way is to take a quirk. Which the DM, the GM, whatever, just assigns you sort of a weird little tick or personality thing, a quirk. And you have to, you know, add that into your role-playing and stuff like that. But it alleviates some insanity. And so I'm like, okay, Ziggy, give me a quirk. And so he had to think about it. And he thought about it during the whole Harpy fight, I guess. Or he came up with it after the Harpy fight. And the quirk that he gave me was... I guess he found he had a list or something. I don't think he came up with this. He found it in a list. I'm afraid of the open sky. So, pretty much, I don't get the benefits of a full rest unless my head, at least my head is underground. It is under the ground level. It's not enough to be indoors. Like, it's not enough that I just can't see the sky. I have to be somewhat underground. That's a pretty shitty quirk. Not the worst.
You know, looking at the dark days just behind us.
Like, there's one where you just, like, spontaneously just fall asleep, like, in the middle of combat or stuff like that. But this one's pretty bad. But I'll deal. And so this sort of changed my plans, because my plans were for the campaign that I would try to build, like, some technologically advanced, like, mega city inside of a dome that just prevented all plant life or anything like that from entering. And I don't know how exactly the bloom works, you know, how it would affect isolated plant life or anything like that. I have no idea. But that was my basic plan, was to create like a mega city under a bubble. But this changes things, because now I have to sleep underground. And so I could do I could just do the same idea, the mega city, and just have my home be a little underground. But I'm like, no, if I have to sleep underground, everybody has to sleep underground. So we're gonna go with an underground city. And so yeah, just that one quirk changed the whole course of the campaign. That's how that works. And yeah, this is where I would say, you know, like, I don't want to dictate the course of the campaign, and the others have input, and, you know, it's not all about me, and blah, 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 blah. I've said this over and over and over again. Not that I want to marginalize the others, but I have seen what they do when I'm not in charge, and it's not pretty. This was how we got me being called Weak Gug. And, you know, they just sort of fall apart without me. So, it is what it is. I'm not playing the game for them or anything like that. I just think we all have the best time if I'm the leader, and they just do what I tell them.
This fight's going viral.
I don't know. I'm past the point of trying to... I don't even know. I don't even know anymore. Anyways. Moot discussion. Okay, so we get into town, and since I have to sleep underground, that means that I can't just stay in the inn. I could. I mean, it's not like I can't sleep. but I don't get the benefits of a sleep. And since I am a spellcaster, that's really important to me, because I need all my spells every day. So, pretty much for the rest of this character's life, I have to sleep underground. So they go to the inn, and I'm like, okay, we're not gonna take all this big bag of ore into the inn. So I'll take the ore, I'll dig myself like a little ditch in the slums, and I'll have a restful night's sleep while watching over the ore with my little robot buddy. So, that's what I do. Just pull the bag of ore into some dirty corner, I dig a little ditch, and the robo dude stands watch while I sleep. And of course he wakes me up in the middle of the night because I'm being attacked by somebody. Basically, I'm being attacked by like an organ harvester. I'm being attacked by a guy, or a creature I guess, that harvests people's organs in the night. So that's pretty freaky. And so of course I very promptly kick his ass, and I harvest his organs. No, I don't, although that would have been pretty great. I honestly didn't even think of it, but I should have harvested his organs. That would have been a perfect turnaround. Oh, I have to fucking rescue these people, hold on. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? But no, I kill him. And then I drag his body through the streets. And I alert a guard. And they say that this guy has apparently been plaguing the neighborhood for a while. And so I'm given like a reward, I guess, and I'm like recognized. I tell them my name, and they're like, "Oh, okay, thank you. Big help. This is the nicest thing I will ever do." But it's important that I gain the goodwill of the people because I have big plans. This is sort of when I went into strong thinking mode about exactly what I wanted to do with the city, and exactly the way to go about it. But eventually, in the morning, I woke up and found that vines or something had started to grow into my body. Like, this is how bad the bloom is already. I slept on the ground and I have vines sticking into my body. So that's pretty horrific.
Incident is active near Grand Central.
We reserve the right to refuse service and knock out any criminals. It says so right on the sign.
But okay, after that, we take the ore to a blacksmith. Specifically, this is the blacksmith closest to the slum. So, you know, basically the poorest blacksmith looking for the most work. That was my thought. And
vintage crime stopping right there.
I pretty much tell him, like, I ask him if he can refine this ore, and he says he can. He says he only has one smelter, and he's hoping to buy a second one, build a second one. But yeah, he can. And I tell him that, okay, there's this plant growth. It's clearly a big problem. You know, we've seen the forests are already overgrown. We've seen the guard tower at the front is covered in vines. People, like, Mert earned his, like, dinner by helping clear out some vine and plant growth around the inn. And I woke up with vines growing out of my skin, or into my skin. This is clearly a problem and a threat to the town. Like, it doesn't seem like anyone's solving this problem by just clearing out the weeds. So
those guys are already breaking. I better stop the entry. Wow, you all forgot to
God, that guy got fucking rocketed. Oh, great. See ya. And get out of here with your gun. So I tell him, we're gonna have to fix this city, and the only way that we're gonna really do that
So, you're all going to jail.
is by going underground,
You'll be as good at
where there are
breaking out
less
as you
plants.
were at breaking.
It's funny, because it's like, of course, this is the most rational choice. You know, this is the best thing to do, is to go underground. It makes the most sense. But really, it's just because Gug needs to sleep underground. He's afraid of the open sky. If it wasn't for that, and I was doing the Techno City, you know, I would explain this and rationalize this in a completely different way, and it would probably also sound completely reasonable. It's just, yeah, that's the point of the argument. Like, it doesn't really matter what you're saying as long as it sounds good.
Civilians are trapped following a vehicle collision. Incident is active near Grand Central.
That car crash looks bad. Hope no one's injured. Pedestrian trapped under that vehicle. Hang on.
So I tell him that I'm going to be building an underground city underneath Stanton, underneath the city. And I need his help. And so I need him to smelt all this ore, or to refine all this ore. I need him to make like 50 mining picks, because we're going to have a lot of people mining. And so I pay for his second smelter, and I also pay for him to get another couple assistants. And rather than hire some fancy apprentice or something through the mining blacksmithing guild or whatever, we're just gonna train a couple homeless people in the slums.
Everyone, glad I was here to help.
Because I want this entire operation to start in and around the slums. Because that's the most likely area to just be completely ignored by the more powerful, wealthier people in the city. Because I need this operation to be well underway before, like, the Duke gets involved. Because once you involve the Duke, he's going to try and wrangle for power. He's going to try and use his guards and his military and stuff to take control of this. And Gug is not sharing power with anyone. So, we need this to be well underway. I need to get everyone into my pockets, under my control, before, you know, we steal all of the Duke's money and take control of the city. So, it's sort of a surreptitious operation to begin with. And so he's fully on board, because he's definitely afraid of this rampant plant growth as well, and he's happy to get all this work and get paid, because I gave him like 50 silver pieces, which is quite a bit. And there's more where that came from, and he knows it. So I'm like, okay, you get that second smelter built, you get started on making the picks, and I sent the boys to go get a couple of homeless people, a couple of people, not necessarily homeless, but people in the slums, to become apprentices. They don't have to be especially knowledgeable, but they have to be willing, at the very least. They have to be willing to learn. They have to be not, like, you know, handicapped or something. Capable peasants.
Gotta give that wheelman props. Manhattan rush hour is no joke.
And so, okay, this is done. Hold on. How did I get back in this part of the... Oh, man, I'm just swinging around. I'm not focusing. You have to do so many crimes to get this all wrapped up. So yeah, I sent them to find a couple of apprentices, and I also sent them into the slums to find a suitable point for ground zero.
Be advised, a mugging was just reported. Proceed to Sutton Place. Over.
So, a suitable place, hidden, tucked away, that we can break ground and start building the underground city. And so pretty much I just sort of want like a straight tunnel down. I don't want this to be like some gradual descent that people walk down. There's going to be some sort of elevator involved. At the start it's probably just going to be more like a rope system. But yeah, they need to find a place that's like, okay, sure, you can start digging here inside some little shanty. And so we can just sort of have this shanty mining operation going on.
After much listener demand, today I am finally going to answer the question I have posed for many years. Spider-Man, threat or menace? Yes, that's right. It's time. I'm taking a position, and that position is... he's both. Sometimes he's a threatening menace, and sometimes he's a menacing threat. But come on, how can you menace someone without also being a threat? And vice versa. And for those grammar Nazis among you who say
so,
I'm being redundant,
yeah, that's what they were doing, and I went off to one of the exits to the town, one of the gates, to bribe the guards because this is the gate closest to the slums. So I'm bribing them to sort of ignore any sort of sounds coming from the slums. I tell the guard captain exactly what I'm doing, and he's on board. Because everyone's scared of the bloom, and apparently the Duke hasn't addressed it. And this sounds like a good plan. Like I said, it's important that it sounds good and reasonable. So he's on board with a bribe, of course, to ignore sounds coming from the slums, and I'm going to be bringing in a lot of lumber. We're going to be going out into the wilderness, which is going to become a lot more dangerous soon, so I'm trying to do this quickly. And we're going to be chopping down trees all over the place, and we're going to be hauling in a lot of lumber to sort of build this mining area. You know, we need to stabilize all the walls and stuff like that, so there's going to be a lot of lumber involved. So I'm going to be bringing in a lot of lumber, and I don't want to be hassled. I don't want anyone to know about it. I don't want to be fined or anything like that. I just want them to be fully aware of what's going on here, so I have the full cooperation. And presumably down the line, we will get the rest of the guards on board in the city. And there will have to be bribes, of course. But in time, the Duke will learn about this. There's no doubt.
Great.
And at that point, I want to have his forces on my side rather than his side. And so at that point, the Duke is pretty much nothing. Because I'll have a bunch of the city in my pocket, and he'll have practically nothing. And so at that point, I'm not exactly sure what will happen. He has a lot of wealth, I'm sure, that we're going to need, because I am going to have to do a lot of financing here. So it's either we just take all his money and kill him, or we take all his money, kill him, and we have Thomas impersonate him. Because Thomas is a changeling, he's a shapeshifter, so you could take over and impersonate him. The thing is, though, at that point, we don't really need anyone to impersonate, or we don't even need the Duke to exist, so it's not really that important. But it's an option if things go in a different direction.
I need to take out those snipers.
Oh, snipers.
Hey, the cops may say they like you, but they don't like you.
And so that's pretty much where we left off. Ow. With big plans for the city. And yeah, it's not a campaign that everyone would enjoy, I think. Because it's going to be a very static campaign in a way. Like, it's going to be based around one location for the most part. At some point down the line, or possibly much sooner if things really go bad, we might have to change locations. But I think at that point, it probably would just be too dangerous to make a big trek across country. The only thing that might be possible would be we have to go back underground in a different place, and so we go back to that underground entrance that we came out of at the start, and we go back along that way. I don't know what exactly would happen that would make that the smart idea, but who knows. But for the most part, I feel like it's going to be based around this one city. But I'm excited. There's a lot of potential here. I like city building, and I like that whole concept of running a city and building up a city, so it should be pretty interesting. And my god, we're at like an hour and 11 minutes here, so I guess I should cut it off. Oh god. Part of that was too many long breaks while I was playing, but so anyways, get Spider-Man if you haven't. If you can't. If you absolutely can't, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Check out the SCP-093 video tomorrow. There's a lot of great pictures in there of abandoned locations. And we got Shadow of the Tomb Raider coming this week. Some more Doom. It's going to be a good time. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.